Hey wrestling fans, welcome back once again to Wrestling Pro News, the channel where we dive deeper than anyone else into the emotion and the drama of professional wrestling. And today's story is one that weighs heavily on the heart because it is not just about championships or rivalries or shocking twists, but about the fragility of life itself as we focus on the fictional yet heartbreaking scenario of AJ Styles losing his life in a tragic motor accident while being rushed to the hospital, a moment that, if it were ever real, would shatter the WWE universe into pieces and leave a void that could never truly be filled, because AJ Styles was not only a phenomenal athlete in name but in spirit, a man who carried the weight of the industry on his shoulders for decades, and a performer who turned every match into a work of art, whether it was in WWE, TNA, NJPW or any other ring across the globe. AJ's name symbolized excellence, dedication and passion, and the sudden news of his passing would spread like wildfire across the wrestling community, stunning fans into silence and bringing tears to the eyes of peers who respected him not only as a competitor but as a man. Imagine the first reports trickling through social media, the words, "AJ Styles dead in motor accident," flashing across timelines like a dagger to the heart of the wrestling world, and instantly fans would flood platforms with disbelief, with desperate prayers that it was a mistake or a hoax, because AJ had always seemed larger than life. But then confirmation would come from WWE itself, the official statement appearing on screens in somber tones, and in that moment millions of fans around the globe would feel united in grief as one of the brightest flames in professional wrestling was extinguished far too soon. For AJ's family, this loss would not just be tragic, it would be earth-shattering. His wife, his children, his siblings would be left to navigate a world without the man who was the anchor of their lives, the father who guided the family, the husband who loved fiercely, the brother who stood strong. And for his friends and colleagues backstage in WWE, the locker room would fall into silence as grown men and women who dedicate their lives to performing night after night would be forced to confront the reality that even their strongest brother can be taken in an instant. WWE itself would be paralyzed with grief, but also faced with an immense responsibility to honor the memory of one of its most celebrated superstars. And in the days following such a tragedy, fans would expect to see tribute shows with video packages chronicling AJ's legendary career, emotional interviews with fellow wrestlers breaking character to share their love and admiration for him, and arenas turned into shrines of respect as chants of "Thank you, AJ" echoed louder than any scripted storyline. And even those who had once feuded with him in character would put everything aside to bow their heads in respect, because when a figure like AJ Styles is gone, kayfabe melts away and only humanity remains. On screen, the absence of AJ would force WWE to adapt in ways that go beyond creative rewrites, because AJ was not just another wrestler, he was a linchpin. His matches carried prestige, his feuds elevated others, his charisma drew crowds, and without him the company would have to rebuild entire arcs that had been set for months if not years into the future, leaving superstars scrambling to fill the gap and creative minds struggling to redirect momentum. But no matter who stepped forward, the shadow of AJ Styles would linger over every storyline, reminding fans of the greatness they had lost. At the same time, though, tragedy often unites the WWE universe, and fans from every corner of the globe would rally in AJ's name, organizing tribute videos online, holding candlelight vigils outside WWE headquarters, and turning arenas into cathedrals of memory where homemade signs reading "Forever Phenomenal" would rise above the crowds. And this shared grief would transform into a celebration of AJ's life, his career and his impact not only on WWE but on wrestling itself, because long before AJ stepped into a WWE ring, he was carving his name into history books with his high-flying style, his in-ring psychology and his ability to make any opponent look like a star, which is why his legacy would be remembered not just as a WWE legend but as one of the greatest professional wrestlers the world has ever known. Fellow wrestlers would no doubt break down in interviews talking about the lessons AJ taught them, the kindness he showed backstage, the respect he gave to everyone regardless of status, and some would dedicate their future matches and even their entire careers to keeping his memory alive, while others might wear armbands with his initials, carry his catchphrases into promos, or attempt to emulate his style in ring as a way to keep him present in spirit, and WWE as an institution would likely immortalize him in the Hall of Fame sooner rather than later, ensuring that his name, his image, and his story would never fade away but remain etched in the legacy of the sport forever. The fans too would keep his legacy alive, chanting his name during shows, sharing their favorite AJ Styles matches on social media, reliving every phenomenal forearm, every Styles clash, every world title victory, and every underdog story that made him not just a wrestler but a hero to millions around the globe. And for years to come, his image would flash across Titantrons during tribute packages, reminding newer generations that before their time there was a man who truly defined what it meant to be phenomenal. And yet, beyond the tributes and beyond the legacy, this fictional tragedy reminds us of something even deeper: that life, no matter how bright or strong, is fragile and unpredictable, and even the men and women who seem superhuman under the spotlight are still mortal, still vulnerable, still human. And that is why we as fans must treasure every moment we get with them, because the sacrifice they give is not just physical, it is life itself put at risk every time they step onto the road, every time they climb into the ring, every time they perform for us. So wrestling fans, the question now falls to you: how do you think the WWE Universe would truly respond if such an unthinkable tragedy struck? How do you think the shows, the storylines, and the company itself would adapt in the absence of a man like AJ Styles? And more importantly, how would his memory inspire the next generation of wrestlers to carry the torch forward? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if you believe in honoring the legacies of these incredible performers, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and continue walking with us on this journey through the highs and lows of professional wrestling, because together we keep the spirit alive. Thank you for being here, thank you for keeping the conversation going, and remember, legends never truly die because their stories live forever in the hearts of those who remember them. So stick around, watch the next video on your screen, and keep AJ Styles' phenomenal legacy burning in spirit long after the bell has rung. Hey wrestling fans, welcome once again to Wrestling Pro News, the channel where we go beyond the ring and bring you the most emotional stories, shocking headlines, and in-depth reflections on everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. And today's story is not just news, it is heartbreak, as we focus on the fictional yet deeply emotional passing of WWE superstar AJ Styles in a tragic motor accident. While being rushed to the hospital, a piece of news that, if real, would have sent an unimaginable wave of grief and shock across the entire WWE universe, because AJ Styles was not simply another performer on the roster. He was a cornerstone of professional wrestling whose name and legacy carried weight far beyond the squared circle. Admired for his athleticism, respected for his resilience, and cherished for the unique ability he had to connect with fans on a level that was raw, genuine, and timeless. And the sudden loss of such a figure would be felt not only by his colleagues and his family but by every fan who ever stood up in an arena to chant his name, every child who wore his merchandise, and every aspiring wrestler who saw him as the ultimate role model. The accident itself would instantly become one of the darkest chapters in WWE history, a reminder that behind the spectacle and bright lights of the industry lies the same fragility of human life that we all share. And for AJ's family, his wife, his children, his siblings, the pain would be immeasurable, as they would not only lose a global superstar but the heart of their home, a devoted father, husband, and brother who gave everything to both his craft and his loved ones. And for his fellow WWE performers, the locker room atmosphere would likely be drenched in grief, because AJ wasn't just a top-tier performer, he was the kind of veteran who lifted others, inspired younger talent, and pushed his peers to bring their very best every night, which means his absence would be felt in every segment, every match, and every storyline that followed. WWE as a company would be faced with the heavy task of honoring AJ's legacy while also moving forward, a balance that is never easy, and we would expect to see on-screen tributes, emotionally charged video packages, and heartfelt messages from superstars both past and present, while at the same time the creative team would be forced to pivot, to rewrite storylines, and to reshape the future of the company without one of its most important pillars. Because whether you agreed with his booking or not, AJ Styles represented consistency, charisma, and excellence, and that kind of presence is not easily replaced, leaving WWE in a position where new stars would have to step into the spotlight, but always in the looming shadow of a legend gone too soon. The fans, of course, would respond with an outpouring of love and grief, flooding social media with memories, tributes, and messages of support for his family, creating hashtags, organizing candlelight vigils outside arenas, and turning shows into emotional gatherings where chants of, "Thank you AJ," would echo louder than any scripted storyline, showing just how much his presence meant to the world of wrestling. And this tragedy could very well spark a renewed appreciation not only for AJ's career but for the fragility of life itself, reminding everyone that no matter how superhuman these performers appear in the ring, they are still flesh and blood who risk everything for the fans' entertainment. The storyline implications would also be immense, because while WWE is built to move forward even in the face of loss, AJ's passing would force shifts in rivalries, championships, and feuds, as other superstars either paid tribute through their matches or attempted to capitalize on the vacancy at the top. But no matter what changes occurred on-screen, there would always be an unfillable gap, a sense that something profound had been lost forever, because AJ wasn't just part of WWE, he was woven into its very identity. His legacy, however, would live on endlessly, because AJ Styles has already cemented himself as one of the greatest superstars of his generation, a man who could blend athletic precision with charisma and storytelling in a way that transcended eras and promotions, and he would be remembered not just for the titles he held or the matches he stole the show with, but for the way he inspired, for the way he carried himself, and for the way he reminded fans why they fell in love with wrestling in the first place. And even though this is a fictional scenario, it serves as a sobering reminder of how real tragedy can shatter lives, reminding us to treasure the performers who give us these unforgettable moments, and to honor their sacrifices while they are still here with us. The WWE Universe, in this scenario, would rally like a family, offering support, compassion, and love to AJ's family during their darkest hours, proving once again that wrestling is more than entertainment, it is a community, a family bound together by shared passion and shared grief. So wrestling fans, the question remains, how would you cope with such a loss? How do you think the WWE Universe would react if AJ Styles were really taken from us in such a tragic way? And what kind of future do you think WWE would face without him in its ranks? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and if you value these deep dives into the heart of wrestling, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay connected, because every click and every view helps keep Wrestling Pro News alive, bringing you the stories, reactions, and reflections that keep the wrestling world turning. And as we close today, we thank you for being part of this community, because your voice, your support, and your love for wrestling are what keep this conversation alive. So don't go anywhere, stay with us, check out the next video on the screen, and continue to keep the wrestling spirit burning bright, because though legends may pass, their legacies never die.